Okay, I need this to go up. Hi. So our program has actually been around for 34 years. And in those 34, can everyone hear me fine? Yeah, great. And in those 34 years, we've had just over 2,000 babies born to our program, and never had a surrogate mom change her mind. So I'm bringing you the lump sum of a lot of experience, and I'm hoping that there is some information that each one of you can take away from this and understand that surrogacy really does work. Other things I thought was interesting and might be interesting to you is, you know, about 80% of our surrogate moms in our program become repeat surrogate moms. So these are surrogate moms that have delivered in our program and like it so much and have enjoyed what they've done so much that they will actually come back to our program a second time. Many times they help the same couple a second time, but if that couple has completed their family, they do want to continue the journey. It's as if surrogacy is a little addictive. We also have surrogate mothers in our program whose mothers were surrogate moms in our program. So we now have 7 of them. So these girls grew up knowing what a wonderful thing their mothers did was being a surrogate mom. They've grown up, got married, had children of their own, and now they've returned to us because they too want to do what their mother has done. And we have our first case. It's a good thing I dye my hair, guys. I'm gonna age myself now. We have our first case of a surrogate child born through our program who is now a surrogate mom. All right. So our program, CSP, was started by Bill Handel. He's my business partner and a very good friend. Bill was an attorney when a couple approached him and said, you know what, we're thinking of doing surrogacy, could you help us? And because Bill had recently graduated from law school and had absolutely 0 clients, he said, of course I can do that. What the hell, surrogacy? So he had to embark upon, how do I do surrogacy? And Bill, being who Bill is, a very thorough man, really began doing a lot of research. And he decided on 2 things after his research was done. 1, he decided that mental health professionals are really the core of everything to do with surrogacy. And you should never embark upon surrogacy without the assistance of a mental health professional. And 2, he looked at the law and said, the only way these parents can become parents right now under the present legal system is for them to go through an adoption. And I'm not going to have my couples adopt what's already theirs. The law's going to have to change. We're going to have to recognize them as parents. They shouldn't have to adopt their own children when a child is born through surrogacy. So let's go through some of the psychological aspects. I'm not going to really touch much on surrogacy because Dr. Kim Bergman, where is Kim? Wherever, I think she's outside. She did a brilliant speech. I mean, she gave you a really good background as to who surrogate moms are and how surrogate moms are screened. So I'm not going to touch that because she's covered it really, really well. This morning, we also heard from 3 children born through surrogacy. I think those kids were absolutely amazing. And, you know, I want to cry every time I hear these children talk because they are just precious. But these children have things to teach us. We don't have to guess about surrogacy and how the children will feel about their unique beginnings. These children are now telling us how they feel. So we need to listen to what these children are saying to us. And what are they saying to us? They are saying they have the absolute right to know how they are conceived. They are telling us they want to know their genetic makeup. They are saying they are proud that their parents worked so hard to make them. And they are saying that they very much appreciate the surrogate mom and her family. They are also saying that they are perfectly normal young people and they don't really think they're different to anyone else. So listen to the words of these children. Treat their surrogate moms with kindness and respect so that when these children grow up and they learn about surrogacy and how they were conceived, they're not going to be embarrassed about their beginnings, because they know that you did absolutely everything right and that you were extraordinarily respectful to their surrogate mom. Here in New South Wales, you have the Central Registry, where children conceived via donated gametes need to be on a registry, and so must the donors, the egg donor and the sperm donor. So when a child turns 18 years old, these children are able to find out about their genetic beginnings. So what that's telling us is that as Australian citizens, these children are growing up with the feeling of, I have a right to know. So agencies and IVF doctors and surrogacy agencies around the world are giving us this wonderful picture. And they're saying, look, what surrogacy does is you have couples, like every one of us here today, that desperately wants to love a child. And surrogacy can really help them. On the other hand, you've got a surrogate mom who volunteers to come forward, who helps you have a child. She gets a lump sum of money that she would never earn any time of her lifetime. She gets to build a new house for her children. She gets to put her children through a good education. It's a win-win for everyone. It's a beautiful picture. And pretty much it is. It's only a very good picture if you also include into that equation the children. The children are very important in this equation. You need to make sure that these children know their surrogate mom or know of their surrogate mom. You need to make sure you're giving your children a really good story. You need to make sure that your children who are born through egg donor or sperm donor have a right to know their genetics, just like every other child in Australia is learning about their genetics and has a right to it. Surrogacy in America is very close to this idea, the same as Australia, that children have a right to know their genetics, that we believe that children have a right to know who carried them for 9 months, who is their egg donor. We very much are proponents of open donation where you get to meet your donors. So if you believe that your child has a right to information about their genetic contributors, you need to make the right medical decisions and choose the right agencies. Don't start out making it impossible for your child to get this information. Legal. So legal in America has changed like you can't even possibly imagine. It's gone from one end to the other end. In the beginning, when Bill Handel first did his very first case, it was traditional surrogacy. So the intended father was related to the child and the surrogate mom. He went to court, he declared the father, and he declared the surrogate mom the mom, because that was the only way around it. And then the intended mom did a step-parent adoption. And we did that for many, many years. And along came the wonders of IVF, and all of a sudden, the intended mother was saying, well, I can now contribute my genes. How come my husband gets more rights as a father than what I get? And you know what? Bill Handel and Andy Vorsimer, Andy Vorsimer is an attorney we work with, both said, you're right. If you're biologically related to a child, why are you doing a step-parent adoption? So we sued in California, and we said, a mother has a right to be recognized as a mom the exact same way as a father who's biologically related has a right. And the courts agreed with us. And after that, when the mom and dad donated their egg and sperm, their names went on the original birth certificate. And then, of course, IVF marched on again, all these wonderful doctors out there, and they said, now we can do egg donation as well for those. Instead of doing traditional surrogacy, why are we not also doing some egg donation with a surrogate mom? And then we all had to think about, okay, well, if an egg donor is being used, then it's not biologically related to the mother, but why is she again being denied the rights to be a mother? And while we were preparing to go to court on this, 2 amazing cases happened in California. One of them was Johnson versus Johnson, and the other one was Bazanka. These 2 cases, I'm not going to go into the cases because they're complicated, but the judges in these cases said, you know what, why are we even looking at biology? Really, what does biology have to do with parenting? Surely we should look at who intends to be a parent. If you intend to be a parent, if you intend to create this child, you know what? You're a parent. And after that, in the state of California, if you intended to be a parent, hence you'll often hear us talk about intended parents, we're proving intent. If you intend to be a parent, it doesn't matter whether you're biologically related to the child or not. This child exists in the world because of your efforts. And I call that a parent. And so does the courts. And so now in California, it doesn't matter about your biological relationship to a child. If you intended to create the child, congratulations, you're a parent. Your names go on the original birth certificate. Now, America is an unusual place, actually pretty similar to Australia, in that every state has different rules when it comes to surrogacy. So this rule that I'm telling you for California doesn't apply to every single state. It actually applies to a number of them, but not every single one. So when you do surrogacy in America, we do have to look at where you are going to, what genetics you are contributing towards the child, and which state you can work with. But slowly, state after state is now beginning to pass legislation pretty much following the California rules, which is just wonderful. Now, we've heard stories of other countries around the world where you can go and do surrogacy, and then all of a sudden you wake up in the morning and they've changed their rules. And now you're stuck. I don't know how to get my child out. I can't get a birth certificate. I can't get a passport. Just things change so rapidly overnight. The latest case actually is Mexico, where overnight a couple went, actually an American couple from California, their baby was born, and they went to go get the birth certificate, and they said, I'm sorry, there's been a change in the administration. You can't get a birth certificate. I am pleased to say that whatever happened out there, the couple now does have a birth certificate and we're able to go home. But we know that in some countries, the laws can change just like that overnight. And that's a risk to every parent. This brings me to a huge advantage of surrogacy in California. We have a law ex post facto. What that means is any law passed is passed from that day forward. No law goes retroactively. So, in the wild event that for some reason surrogacy gets outlawed in California, everyone that has contracted with a surrogate mom, that has signed a contract with her, that has retained an agency, that has a pregnant surrogate mom, the new law does not apply to you. It only applies to people coming from that moment forward. And that's a huge advantage. It makes you feel safe. A second unique advantage to surrogacy in America is birthright citizenship. In America, if a child is born in America, on American land, you're an American. You can have Australian parents, you can have Spanish parents, you can have Norwegian parents. It makes no difference whatsoever. If you are born in America, legal or illegal, you are an American citizen. And that's really important because that means you have an absolute right to a birth certificate and you have a right to an American passport, regardless of how you were conceived. And no one can ever take that away from you. So, in the unlikely event again that the laws of Australia change and they suddenly say, we're no longer giving any passports or any documentation to children born through surrogacy internationally, you're not going to have a child that's stateless. Because in another country, that child doesn't have any documentation now, it doesn't have a passport because they don't belong to the country they're born in. If that were to happen, your child would be an American citizen and have an American passport and can travel around the world at will. But I understand the next question I'm going to get. All sounds really good, Karen, but the United States is expensive. And I get that. The United States is expensive. We do have world-class IVF. We do have an infrastructure that makes surrogacy more expensive. But the real cost in surrogacy, the real risk to parents, used to be when a baby is born. So what used to happen was if you as a couple had a baby born in America and that baby was ill, you would have to pay for that baby's medical expenses. Well, that's around about $5,000 a day, and if you want to have twins, that's $10,000 a day. And that adds up pretty quickly. That's all changed. President Obama passed the Affordable Care Act. And the Affordable Care Act says every American citizen is entitled to medical insurance. No pre-existing conditions. Does not matter whether you were born prematurely. So what that means is that for approximately $220 a month, you can buy American insurance for your baby, and your baby can get some of the best health care in the world. $220 a month. And you know what? When your child's 15 years old and you decide you want a second opinion for your kid and you want to go to America for treatment, all you've got to do is land in America, your child's got its passport, and say, I want to buy medical insurance again. And for about $220 a month, your child is now entitled to any health care in America. Everything has changed, and surrogacy is now absolutely affordable. How do I apply everything that we have learnt about surrogacy to Australia? I mean, what everyone in the room really wants is something like my company and Growing Generations to exist in Australia, so you don't have to go overseas to have a baby. So what would that world look like? What is it that every one of you should be looking forward to? What is it you should be writing to your representatives about? Here we go. Number one, you got to legalize surrogacy. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Surrogacy needs to be legal in every single state. At least one parent who participates in surrogacy should be an Australian citizen, and the surrogate mom needs to be an Australian citizen. And the reason why I say this is you don't want to legalize surrogacy and then have surrogate mothers from foreign countries being flown into Australia to give birth because it's legal in your country, because that's going to cause trouble somewhere along the line, and then they're going to outlaw surrogacy again. So at least one parent needs to be Australian, and the surrogate mom should be an Australian citizen. Bill and I passed a law in California, which took us almost 3 years, but we got it passed. It's called SB 1217. And it's a law that now legalizes officially surrogacy in Australia. We are no longer based on the case law. Now we actually have actual written legislation. And here are some of the things that might be important to consider. Every surrogate mom should be represented by an independent attorney. And I think everyone in the room understands why. You want that surrogate mom to have an attorney that absolutely explains the rights to her and what she's agreeing to under that contract. The intended parent should have a different attorney representing them. The surrogate mom needs to be screened by a psychologist. And you want a written clearance letter from that psychologist saying, you know what, she understands surrogacy. No medication should be started by any IVF doctor until those two things above have been done. So no medication can begin until the surrogate mom's seen the psychologist and the doctor knows that both the surrogate mom and the doctor have signed contracts, and we have what we call a legal clearance. All contracts must be notarized. We want to make sure that the person who said they signed that contract absolutely signed that contract. So all signatures need to be notarized. When you go to court to declare you the parents of the child, those contracts should be attached to the court pleadings. The court should be able to see the contract. The court should be able to see the signatures, see the clearance letter, and understand that everyone was represented by an attorney. And then all the judge has got to do is stamp it and say, congratulations, you are the parents. All surrogate moms must at least have given birth to a child. You can't expect a surrogate mom to be a surrogate mom unless she's actually given birth to a child for a lot of reasons. One of the most important ones being, every pregnancy could be your last pregnancy. So if you having a sister help you and she's never had children, how do you think your sister's going to feel when she delivers a child for you and then has a hysterectomy? That is a huge burden on us as parents. She was there to help us, not to harm herself and never be able to carry her own baby. She needs to have had her own children. She needs to have completed her family. It's just fair and logical. If all of these things are done, I think the law in Australia should guarantee that you are the parents. There's no changing of the mind. There's no discussion about payment. It's if you follow all of these things and you did everything that you should have done, the court stamps that document and you are the parent. You should be able to participate in surrogacy knowing for 100% sure that at the end of this journey, this child that you created is coming home with you. Compensation of surrogate moms. And this brings me to something that I think we should all talk about, and Dr. Feynman brought this to my attention. Dr. Feynman, who's talking later on, hates the word commercial surrogacy. It sounds like a business transaction. His answer is, we're compensating her. Say it, say what it is. This is not something like, you know, I'm doing a better business deal than you're doing a better business deal. This isn't a commercial transaction. I'm not renting a building. We're compensating her for her pain and suffering. Say it like it is. And I think surrogate moms should be compensated. I think this whole idea of compassionate surrogacy is absolutely fabulous, make no mistake. The answer is there's not enough surrogate moms that want to be compassionate surrogate moms. There's only so many angels in the world, and the rest of them would like to get some compensation for what they're doing. And you know what? I will tell you that most surrogate moms would be a compassionate surrogate mom, but their husbands are saying to them, look, I'll do this with you, but really, is there something in our family, in this for our family? So often it's not the surrogate mom that wants to be compensated. It's the bribery we're giving her husband because we need him on board as well. And that's just the reality of it. So go ahead and compensate the surrogate moms and just say what it is. Don't do this whole thing where it's all done underground where you're passing cash to her or something. We don't want the kids to think about that. Just say what it is. It's okay. I think that international surrogacy should be permitted. Even if you legalize surrogacy in Australia, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take many years before it really takes off and you've got enough surrogate moms for everyone. In the meantime, couples should have the choice of not having to wait and be able to go overseas and do surrogacy. But I do believe that the Australian government should put out some kind of agreed upon statement that says if you do surrogacy in this country, here are the laws of the country, here's the pros and cons. If you go to this country, here are the laws of that country, here are the pros and cons, so that you are really getting accurate information from someone you trust, your Australian government, instead of someone, all right, how else do I phrase that? There's other things I think that should happen. I believe that you should be able to choose the IVF doctor that you work with. So even if the IVF doctor recruits surrogate moms for you, if you want to leave that IVF facility, you should be able to leave that facility and go to the doctor of your choice. I don't think you should be threatened with, what if you don't work for me, I'm taking your surrogate mom for one of my other couples. Pay the doctor for the IVF surrogate mom. You should have a choice of which doctors you want to work with. I believe you should have access to egg donor information. And I think all the personal information about the egg donor should be available to you. And I think you should keep that information secure. I had a little argument yesterday with one lady, and she kept telling me, I don't need to keep the information on my egg donor. The egg donor has to be registered on the registry. And I'm saying, well, okay, but if she moves to Singapore, doesn't apply anymore, right? So you're the gatekeepers of your child's information. Even if your surrogate mom or your egg donor have to be registered, it is still your job to keep that information in a very safe place because life happens. Information might get lost. The registry gets deleted because someone did some weird little, delete everything on the internet. Keep the information yourself. You should do that. You should also have a choice of surrogate moms. I think if there's going to be agencies in Australia, that those agencies shouldn't just say to you, this is your surrogate mom, this is who you're working with. I think it should be that you get a choice of surrogate moms. The idea, which is what our program is about, and so does Kim's program, Growing Generations, is we permit you to choose your surrogate mom from several surrogate moms, and she chooses you from several parents. And the strength of the relationship and the connection between intended parents and the surrogate moms is because they both knew that they chose each other, that they had choices, and she was the lady for me. And the surrogate mom says, I had 3 couples to choose from. You're the one I wanted to help. By choosing each other, there's a strength to that relationship. I also believe there should be checks and balances in any equation. In other words, what I'm saying is I believe that the psychologists, the medical facility, the attorneys, the psychologists, and the agency should not all be the same person. I think there's absolute strength in the fact that different professionals work together, because then you can't hide things, you can't hide mistakes. Because if I make a mistake with my agency, my couple's attorney is crawling all over me. If I make a mistake with my surrogate mom, that IVF doctor is saying to me, Karen, she's inappropriate. It's working together as a team, but being individuals and individually responsible that makes us all respect each other and do this the right way. And here I am, 34 years later. There's a lovely article written by a journalist, a lovely blog written by a journalist, which I want to read to you. This is a lady who's a journalist in England. She had a child of her own, and she used to write about surrogacy and how wrong surrogacy was. And she did not want surrogacy to occur in the United Kingdom. And then she had a second child, which she miscarried really late in the pregnancy, and it resulted in her never being able to carry a second child. This is Alice's story. I used to think that surrogacy was extreme and probably immoral. Then again, if you told me 10 years ago that I would have a surrogate baby, I would never have believed you. So why the change? Answer, two extraordinary American women who I got to know well. One was our surrogate mother and the other our egg donor. Both are intelligent women. Neither are poor. Both assured me that they really did want to help. Surrogacy was our last chance. Did we pay our surrogate mom and our egg donor? Yes, and I'm glad that I did. I used to believe that paying a surrogate mom would lead to exploitation of women. To me, it seems that failing to offer proper compensation would be the exploitation of women. We did it right. We were represented by an attorney, and our surrogate mom and egg donor were both represented by attorneys. We all signed legal contracts. We met with a mental health professional and had her there to guide us throughout this amazing journey. The 9 months of pregnancy were agonizing for me. I worried about everything every day. But strangely, I never worried about our baby. I just knew that our surrogate mom was looking after her. We arrived 10 days before the birth, and we had 10 fantastic days together with our surrogate mom. Days filled with love and fun. Days I will remember forever. During that time, she and I talked endlessly. Tell me, really tell me, why did you do this? I asked. And she said, on their deathbeds, lots of people ask themselves, what did I really contribute? I won't ever have to ask myself that question. 3 years on, we're still in touch with our egg donor and our surrogate mom. All of us love my daughter and feel incredibly proud that we had different roles to play in creating her. Why was our surrogacy arrangement so harmonious? Partly because our surrogate was American, so there was no vast inequities between her and us. Also, we were all protected by a clear legal framework, so we knew from the beginning how everything would work. We also had the assistance of a highly professional agency who selected the surrogate with great care. I want people to know that surrogacy done correctly brings love, happiness beyond anything you can possibly imagine. And now we have questions.
We're just running about 10 minutes over due, so if you've got any questions for Karen, maybe
I went over?
catch her after. Yeah, sorry.
Time